to be talking about email authentication requirements. So this has been really happening from October 2023 to going in effect February 1st of 2024. So if you're watching this video at a later date, you at least know this is when it all started. And the two big major players are going to be Google and Yahoo. They have a lot of free email users, and the idea behind all of this was to decrease spam. So that way their users creating an email can have a more enjoyable experience. If you are a marketer and you are planning to do mass emails, if you've noticed that you've already started sending out bulk emails, maybe they're showing up in the spam box, they're not going through. This is going to help you get authenticated with your email. I want to explain a few technical terms here, but I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible because if you know me, I like things to be very simple and easy to understand. And when I first started learning this, I thought, oh my gosh, no one's going to ever get this. We'll just have to do it for everyone. But I think learning about the authentication and the requirements and how it really helps you as a business owner and you as an email user yourself. What they've been working on over the last few years is email authentication requirements. And there's a few terms that you're going to want to know. So the authentication received chain, ARC, is a system for DMARC, or ARC for short. It provides a validity to the email messages. The authenticated receive chain is more handled and been adopted by your major mailbox providers, Google, Verizon Media, Microsoft, and soon likely to be a standard globally accepted authentication. And what ARC does is it authenticates the forwarding of emails, hence the arrow of the forwarding. It's just a great term to know and understand because this is pretty much what's going on in the back end when your emails are being forward, meaning you type the email, somebody for your company types an email, if you have multiple people, and it gets forward through the system coding the email. Another term that's really important to know is the PTR record. The domain system, or DNS, correlates the domain with the IP address. A DNS pointer record is the PTR for short. Pointer records. It's pointing to your domain name server, your website. So your www.com, your company website, and your company website IP address where it is hosted. The recommended domain name, the DNS, and email address go with the domain and verify that your domain is authorized and authenticated with Google. So when you hear us saying things like you really should have a business domain for your website, you should have an email address that matches that domain, and this is coming down to the point where you need to have a company business email. Not just for the fact of being professional and not being seen as your name at gmail.com. You actually are a legit business. You have a legit website and you should have an email address to go along with your business. It's just more professional all around. One, that's what we've been talking about for years, is just being professional. But two is now authenticating that this is a real domain owned by a real business and it has an email address that goes along with it. The third term or terms that you're going to want to know is the SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. You've heard these terms before. It all is scary, right? We're all just like, what in the world are these terms? What are we doing? And this is what we're going to go over in the next screen. But SPF, DKIM, and DMARC basically align the sender's header of the email with an SPF domain or a DKIM domain or a DMARC, which is really considered your backup. And these are codes that go in the back of the email. While we're just sending and receiving emails every day, these codes tell the emails if it's valid, if it's trustworthy, and that it is coming from a legit person. You hear the term spoofing emails, and that's where people will take your email and send it out to a bunch of different people. We want to stop that. We want to avoid the types of spoofing that people are doing. We want to make sure that it's legit. And also Google and Yahoo and other email services want to make sure that it's legit. And the final sender requirement that you're going to want to have is the spam rate. Now, we're going to be in control of the PTR record, the SPF, DKIM, and the DMARC record, but the spam rate is also something that we need to be in control of, and we are going to be in control of it because you need it to be less than 0.3%. The spam rate, what is that? That is how many emails you send out, and there's a little bit of math that goes back with that. How many people mark you as spam and say they did not want to receive that email? So there's things that we want to do to keep that spam rate low. Things like having an opt-in message, having an unsubscribe, and making sure that we're sending really relevant, good emails. And we'll go over that here in just a few seconds. So there's 3 things that we're going to be doing here. We're going to go through authenticating our message with SPF, DKIM, and DMARC authentication protocols. We're going to also be talking about the one-click unsubscribe, which is available, should be available for you in all of your emails. And we're going to show you how to set that up if it's not set up, or make sure that is on. We're going to also give you some great things to view on how to monitor your spam rate and how to send messages that interest your receivers. These are the 3 most important things. It's all changing. Nobody wants to be spammed. I know I don't like to. I must hit unsubscribe 4 or 5 different times. And if they don't listen, then I mark them as spam, because I know that once I mark them as spam, their email delivery is going to go up, and they're going to go past that 0.3% if they're bothering me and hundreds and thousands of other people. So we want to go through these things right now. I wanted to save these acronyms and definitions here for later. I didn't put these on the slide before because I want to go over these because this is what we need to make sure that we have done in the deadline. And I want you to understand the authentication protocols, so that way when we get into the system, you understand what you're doing, what you're looking for, and really what all this means. So the SPF is a sender policy framework. SPF helps identify the mail servers that are allowed to send email for a given domain. So it basically says, hey, this is a mail server, this is attached to this domain, and we're allowed to send it. So we're adding a code that says that we have a sender policy framework in place. The DKIM is the domain keys identified mail. This is a digital signature. You'll hear it often said DKIM, digital signature. This lets the receiver of the email know the message was sent and authorized by the owner of the domain. The system reads this code that comes through and says, okay, this is attached to your domain and we're okay with this. It's authorized. It's attached with this domain. It's being sent. The DMARC is the domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. Yeah, that's really long. That's why they just call it DMARC. It verifies email sender by building on the domain name, the DNS, the domain keys, identified mail, which they call DKIM, and the sender policy framework, SPF protocols. So DMARC is basically saying SPF is in place, DKIM is in place. Now we're going to allow sharing once they've been all checked. And the DMARC was created to basically block spoofing of emails. So it's like an extra protection. If something doesn't read through when it comes from SPF, but it reads the DKIM, then the DMARC's going to come through. I know that can be crazy, but the best thing to remember is that DKIM and SPF work together to make sure the send of your email is legitimate and the message hasn't been altered during the transmission. So all 3 of these having in place are important. It used to be it was just throw in an SPF and a DKIM. Now we want the DMARC. And then we're making sure that we have everything set up for our ARC. We want to make sure that our domain, our PTR record, everything's set up. And that's really what we're doing here, is we're making sure that these authenticated protocols are put into our domain and our email system to make sure that the receiver will get our emails. If without these in play, you're going to show up in spam. It's going to say something isn't working. The authentication protocols are not correct. So don't let it make you nervous. It's easy to put in, and I'm going to show you here how to do this inside of your software. If you are using outside email services, you can look up SPF Generator. I'll leave these links here, DKIM Generator, and DMARC Generator, and utilize these sites to grab this information to put inside your domain provider. So for example, your DNS server that we've talked about before, whether it's on Cloudflare or GoDaddy or Ionis, wherever your domain name server is. Let's jump in and I'll show you how easy it is to use this inside of your software. When you go into your account, all you're going to do is go into settings. When you go into settings, we're going to go to the email services. And when you go into email services, you're going to see that you might be set up with just the regular email provider. This is not your domain. You'll see reply notyourdomain.com or whatever it is set up. What you want to do is you want to add a dedicated domain and IP address. One of the things that I like to tell people about is you really want to authenticate your domain. You really want to go to Google. You want to go to Google Console. You want to set up your domain. You want to set up your Google Analytics. You want to make sure that your domain is verified with Google using those protocols. That says Google. You put some code on your website page, and now your website is set up. So you'll be set up both for analytics, for Google Console, for all the tracking mechanisms that need to go with your website, but you'll also be verified with Google with your domain. So once you have had all of your domain name set up and put into analytics and verified with analytics, and you have your sitemaps on your website submitted to Google Analytics, you're verified. You've gone through that WWIP verification protocol. What we want to do is we want to take that same verification type of deal that we're doing with our domain and do it with our email so we can abide by all of the records that we need to be adding. So inside of your system, what you're going to do is, and I actually have my domain name server with Ionis, but I do use Cloudflare, and I have set up a Cloudflare account. I strongly recommend setting up a Cloudflare account. It's super easy. You just add a name server, and you definitely want this, especially with your software, because you'll be able to connect subdomains and all kinds of things. So what we want to do is we want to add a dedicated domain and IP right here. This is what we want to do. So I'm going to select dedicated domain, and let me go back. If you got the warning, you're going to see using a dedicated domain, email, communication, help, provide deliverability. All the notes are here. Implementing DMARC policy allows you to specify receiving. So they're telling you here all the rules, avoid spam traps, all that good stuff. So what we're going to do is we're actually using sample business domain. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Let's go ahead and go in here. We're going to add that domain. I'm going to put the domain here. But here's the thing. I don't want to put my domain. This is going to my website. What we need to do is create a subdomain before this that is my mail domain. So it could be reply dot, it could be replies, it could be whatever your server is. You could do lc dot sample business, but I'm going to go ahead and just do reply dot, and that is going to be my subdomain. So you don't want to do your domain, you want to do your subdomain, reply dot or mail dot. Now what we want to do is, now that we've created this subdomain to our email, let's go ahead and add and verify. And when I select add and verify, it's going to say connect your domain or subdomain. There's two ways that you can do this. You can add the records manually, or you can hit continue and let the system figure it out. I'm going to show you what this looks like by adding it manually. And this is where we go into the actual records. These are your DNS settings records. So I'm going to open this up to show you. If we were not on a name server or on Cloudflare, or if you are on like an Ionis or a GoDaddy, you can go to your DNS settings, and this is where you're going to add the records. So you'll select add record, and then you would add the record. In our case, we connected with Cloudflare. So in here, this is where you can go in and the records. Now, remember earlier I told you about the one-click wonder is what I'll call it. If we were doing these individually, we have to create two text records. We have to copy this host and this required value. I'll show you what it would be like as an example. We would go into here, we would add a record, we would select a text record, find the text record, and then we would come back over here. We'd have to copy the host, and we would have to put it here for the host. All right. Then we would have to go in and we would copy the required value, and we'd need to put that in here in the content as the required value, and this key would then be saved. All right, so we would have to do that you're going to have to do that if you're doing it manually to each one. So you'll create 2 text records, a CNAME record, and 2 MX records. In my particular case, like I showed you with the one-click wonder, is I'm just going to put this in here. I'm going to hit click continue. It's going to go find my domain. It's retrieving my domain. And voila, I'm going to authorize my Cloudflare. And here's what's going to happen. Ta-da! It's going to bring in all the records. Now let's talk about 2 records here that we want to make sure that we have. We need to have our domain key and we need to have our SPF record. So here's our domain key that we were looking for, our DKIM, which is the domain key, and our SP record is right here. So we're already getting those 2 out of the way. So let's go ahead and authorize this. We're going to bring this in. Once you bring it in, it's going to say not verified. So we want to make sure that we hit verify domain. You may have to do this a couple times. Sometimes, depending on your server, might take 24 to 48 hours. It's okay. You can always leave and come back. So let's go back out. You'll see right here, it's going to be looking for this. We'll go ahead and try to verify this again. And next thing we'll see they're all verified. It's verified. And sometimes you might just need to refresh this a couple of times. And then what you're looking for is, now that we've had them all verified, now we're just waiting on the SSL pending. Verify the domain. Let's click verify domain. You'll see again, all green means it went through. And if you were copying and pasting these manually, if something was wrong, you may have to go in and copy and paste these again back into your DNS settings. So if you did a text record or a CNAME record and one of these pieces was missing, you could manually go in and select it. But we're all verified. What we're waiting to do right here is make sure that we have our SSL. Here it is right here. So green means go. We've got everything verified. We now have our reply.sample business domain all set up. So we now have our SPF and our DKIM records set up because of the sender. The LC email system did that for us. Now all we're missing is the DMARC. So I showed you over here how you could go to a DMARC generator. And I'm just going to copy this here. And I'm going to just open this up. And we're going to go to the mxtoolbox.com DMARC generator. Remember, you don't want to put in your domain. You want to put in the subdomain. Inside of our DNS records, now we have the reply set as reply. You can see right here our MX records, reply, everything's in here. So what we want to do is we're getting a DMARC for reply dot our domain, not your domain, but the reply dot. So we're going to go ahead and check the DMARC record, and you're going to see right here, it's going to say, it looks like your DNS provider is Cloudflare. Right here, I put in my domain, my reply dot, and it gave me my type is my text. This is my DMARC dot reply dot sample business domain. Remember, you want to make sure that it's got the subdomain in here. And then here's my value. So the DMARC generator is giving me this. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to do anything. I just have to put my domain or host name in, the subdomain with the domain to get this code. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this, the underscore reply dot. We're going to go to Cloudflare. We're going to add a text record, the text record. We're going to add this, and it's really going to pull in the reply. And then let's go ahead and copy value. And I do this just really careful because you want to make sure you don't have a space in front or behind. That's usually where it happens, where people say, oh, it's not, the code didn't come through. So we're going to make sure there's no spaces. And then we're going to go ahead and save our DMARC record. So now we have, you'll see, underscore DMARC dot reply. And there is our DMARC record. It's that easy to do. So we have our SPF record right here. We have our domain key right here. And now we have our DMARC. And now this is all set up. Now, one of the things that you're going to see when you go to Google, Google's talking about new Google protection for a safer, less spammy inbox. Yahoo is also doing the same thing, deliverability, and giving you all the key notes here. You can go and pull these records, but what I just showed you is the easiest way to set these up. If you're looking at Google, you can go to Google and you can add your SPF records from Google. If you're using Google Gmail in your system, you can also add your DKIM records. Just go to Google Workspace. It'll give you all the records. It also explains all the records and everything I just showed you here. Again, really easy to do if you do it that way. You just know you're covered. You've got your SPF, your DKIM, and your DMARC. Now we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're doing what Google is asking us to do, and we're doing what Yahoo is asking us to do as far as setting up the authentication records. Now, one of the things that Google has when you go into the Google details, they have what's called a Postmaster tool. And this is really a cool tool. I'm going to go ahead and click on it to open this up and show you what this looks like. And it's just postmaster.google.com. And you'll see I'm here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. It's going to say, what domain do you use to authenticate your email? We use the reply dot. I'm going to highlight this. Let's go back to the Google domain. We're going to do reply dot samplebusinessdomain.com. Now I've got everything set up, so I'm going to hit next, and you're going to see it's not verified. Here's why. Verify ownership of sample domain by adding the text to the DNS configurations sample reply. This is the Google site verification text record. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just highlight this, but I'm just going to come over here, go back to my Cloudflare account. We're going to add a new record. We're going to add a text record, site, and we need to make sure that we put reply.samplebusinessdomain.com. Then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this Google code into our Cloudflare account. We're going to hit save. Now we've got the Google site here. Let's go back and verify. Reply.samplebusinessdomain is verified. So now we are officially verified. Now we're not going to have any data yet because we just put it in, but at postmaster.google.com, you'll be able to see what your spam rate is. You'll be able to check all of this in here, your domain reputation as the time goes through. So you got your spam rate, your IP reputation, your domain reputation, your speed, your feedback, authentication, encryption. It's all going to be here. We don't have any data yet because it's brand new. So in 7 days, I may come back and check this, but definitely want to use the postmaster.google.com tool to make sure that you have everything authenticated. And you're just covering yourself. You're telling Google, hey, look, this subdomain is exactly where I'm sending and receiving my emails from. Everything's set up. So now you can officially go into your account and you can officially create campaigns to go and send out emails, marketing campaigns to everybody on your list. We don't want to send everybody on our list that because we want to make sure that we do things the right way. And doing things the right way mean we need to do a few more things. We need to make sure we add an easy one-click unsubscribe button for all of our emails. And we also want to make sure that we set up our emails and we're sending out emails that receivers want to read. So whoever you're sending an email out to, you want them to have opted in to know that they're going to receive the email. So let's look at this. Well, first thing that we're going to do is make sure that our unsubscribe is set up. This is required. And when you go into your software, you're just basically going to go to settings. You're going to go into your company profile. And when you scroll all the way down here, you want to make sure that this box is checked. We need it checked. And then right here, it's going to say you can customize this, but it's going to say if you no longer wish to receive these emails, you may unsubscribe. That's it. Clicking that button does it. And you can customize your message any way you'd like, but by having this here makes it super easy. Now, you can turn this off if you are already adding unsubscribed links to, let's say, your workflows or specific email templates that you've already created. You can turn this off. If you are automatically doing this, you don't have to have it on, but I recommend checking it, having it on, and having it easy for them to use that one-click unsubscribe. And that's all you've got to do. Again, just go to Settings, Company Profile, click on this button. You can customize your message. Just don't change these parameters because we want them to be able to click the unsubscribe. Once you're done with that, you can then save it. Now we've got our unsubscribe done. So we've authenticated our SPF, DKIM, and DMARC protocols. We've done our one-click unsubscribe available for all emails. Now I want to go a little bit more in depth on monitoring spam rate, creating messages that interest your readers. So monitoring spam rates, creating messages that interest your readers, meaning the people that receive your email, is going to be in the email services. This is what's great. You can check these directly with Google and go and check out your authentication here. But you can also do this inside of your system. And all you need to do is go back into the settings and you'll go back into the email services. When you go into the email services, what we want to look at is email analytics. Now, this is a brand new domain, so we have nothing here. But this is where you're going to see your email metrics. How many were sent? How many were delivered? How many were opened? How many were clicked? How many complained? This is your spam rate. How many people are complaining and marking you as spam because you did not have an unsubscribe link? How many people are complaining? This is the thing that you want to have under the 0.3%. So we want to be watching out for that. So it's real easy to go in. Just to recap here, you'll just go into settings, you'll go to email analytics, and you'll see all of your metrics inside of your email services. Now you can see other metrics in different email campaigns, but this is your overall email analytics for your entire system. So if you're running a bunch of different campaigns, this is all of them combined. And remember, you just want to be under 0.3%. Otherwise, your emails are going to go into spam. And they could be blacklisted. So if we want to make sure that we're doing everything right, which brings me to having an opt-in, a consent, and opt-out unsubscribe. This is so important. You want this on your forms. When people go to your website and they fill out your form, do they agree to the terms and conditions? This is their opt-in, is they are giving you consent. Opt-out means they are unsubscribing. We've been using this terminology for years, literally years, at least for the last, 10 years, which we're hitting at the end of this month, or at least the last 10 years of me doing this. And even prior to doing this, when I was doing marketing, we were still getting in opt-ins and opt-outs to make sure that we weren't spamming people. Opt-in is the consent, which is what you want to have on your website forms or any forms that you have to be able to send them an email. And opt-out is the unsubscribe link that you want to have at the bottom of your emails. So we've got our opt-in, we've got our opt-out. Now there's a couple of cool things that you can do with those emails. When you're creating the marketing emails and you want to check yourself, you can go to any one of these 3 websites and test your email to see if it's spam. How is your email testing before you go out and mass send it? So my favorite is going to be the Mail-Tester. That's the easiest one to use. But you also have Inbox Alley, which has a free email spam checker. And of course, the mxtool.com deliverability that has also an email tester. And email testers are pretty simple. Let's just go to my favorite one. We'll go to Mail-Tester. You can tell I use this a lot. And this is where you would just go into this website. And what you do is you just copy this email and you just go into any one of your workflows and copy that email or go into any one of your email templates and send a test. And then you can come back here and check your score. So they make it super easy. I won't go through all of that. There are several different ones that you can play with. So these are my top 3 picks, but you can Google Mail-Tester, email spam checker, and use any free tool that's out there. Some of them may give you like 15 emails to copy all the emails and send them all at once and then do a real test, or they may just send you like the Mail-Tester where you just put in that little URL, go test it, and get what you need. The final thing I want to cover is what we're sending to people in emails. I came from fax machine days where we would program a bunch of phone numbers and send out one fax blast, and we'd get 3 or 4 people back. Could have been the best flyer I could have done. I've done several cold emails back when I was using MailChimp days. Lots of unsubscribes, almost got my account banned, all that good stuff. I'm just not a cold email person. I'm a warm email person. But my big thing is making sure that people opt in, and they want to get opt in because they find that what we're giving them is value. And you always hear me talking about this in the 3S system, whether it's sales, service, or support. These are the kind of emails that you want to be sending so they don't unsubscribe, so they don't mark you as spam. You don't always want to be promoting. Have your promotions towards the bottom of the email. Give them valuable information that they want to read it and continue to receive your emails. My favorite thing is when I'm going through my emails and I star my favorite emails because I want to go back and read them because they've given me this much value. And the 3 things that I say to provide people both in social and email marketing is inspire, educate, and engage. Inspire, think of it as you got this. So this is a you got this, you can do it email. Educate is a how-to type of email. And engage is what do you think? Getting them to reply to your email also shows a good reputation. You're sending an email, then it's coming back because they're replying to an email. That back and forth is building your reputation score. You're communicating heavily back and forth to the same email. So stay engaged with your email list. Create workflows that stay engaged. We have the 52 and the 75 email campaigns. We've got other campaigns. Stay engaged so you're not always doing those bulk posting. You're just continually being active. So again, just to repeat, inspire, got this, educate, how to, and engage. What do you think? So you should feel really comfortable now. Your SPF, DKIM, and DMARC are easily done. Your one-click subscribe is done. You know how to monitor your spam rates, both with Google and with your software.